Hey, everybody. How's it going? We're ready. Your Ben Joravsky show for Wednesday, September 25th. Is that right, Ben? September 25th?
That would be correct.
All right.
Correct.
Pass the first pop quiz of the day.
Oh, for 10 trivia points. What is the date?
Your Ben Joravsky show for Wednesday, September 25th is just moments away. But before we get into that, we want to thank the following unions for sponsoring this program. First up, it's the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, Local 126 and District 8, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 9, the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150, and a giant thank you to our good friends at the Chicago Federation of Labor. The Ben Joravsky Show starts now. It is Wednesday, September 25th, and live from the Chicago Sun-Times Chicago Reader Studio on Racine Avenue, this is the Ben Joravsky Show. Today on the program, legendary Chicago journalist Monroe Anderson and host of Humanity in the Headlines, Atiba Buchanan, are back to talk all things Trump impeachment. And we welcome University of Chicago nurse Kelly Kean. And now your host, not a nurse, Chicago Reader columnist Ben Joravsky.
Hello, everybody. Ben Joravsky here. We're calling this Run Around to Lose Weight Wednesday. And here's why. Many years ago, folks, I used to play basketball every Friday night at the Logan Square Y with a gentleman, among others, named Joe. Yes, Joe. What up, Joe?
Hey, Joe.
Tough dude, excellent basketball player, ex-Marine. He used to tell the rest of us, D, you guys just run around and lose weight. I play to win.
Oh,
it's a great
like a
quote.
nice guy.
I love Joe. I used to say that quote for like 20 years. I haven't said it in a while. I play to win. The rest of you just run around and lose weight. Anyway. Seems as though that Nancy Pelosi has decided to take Joe's advice. Sick and tired of running around to lose weight? She's playing to win. Yes, sir, indeed. As we were heading off the show yesterday, the word broke. Dennis interrupted the show. Ben, breaking news. Nancy Pelosi has just announced that she's supporting an impeachment inquiry. About freaking time. Listen. Everybody knows I love Nancy Pelosi to death. I think she's done a great job keeping the Democrats together these first 3 very trying years with Donald Trump. But enough is enough. Donald Trump crossed a line that even Nancy Pelosi could not tolerate. And that, of course, is the breaking news. Things are breaking faster and faster as we speak of Donald Trump getting on the phone with the president of Ukraine to get the president of Ukraine to get his prosecutor to investigate Joe Biden. Digging for dirt in Ukraine on Joe Biden, getting another country's prosecutor to do his dirty work to undermine Joe Biden. This is, by the way, just the day after Robert Mueller had testified to Congress about the last time Donald Trump got a foreign leader to do his dirty work.
That's correct.
Thanks, Mueller. Digging up dirt in this case on Hillary Clinton. That would be Vladimir Putin, who had his hackers go into Democratic computers. Don't forget that, Dems. You always like to forget that. You always like to forget that. So anyway, he doubled down right after Mueller testified before Congress. He felt so powerful, Donald Trump did, that he got on the horn with the president of Ukraine and asked him to dig up dirt. And I've been absorbed since I hopped in the car to get over to the studio. D, the White House released the transcripts. I am loving reading these Trump transcripts. I know we have a lot of stuff to talk about, but this is just one little nugget. They released the transcripts of the conversations with the president of Ukraine, and here's one nugget from Donnie Trump. There's a lot of talk about Biden's son, that Biden stopped the prosecution, and a lot of people want to find out about that. So whatever you can do with the attorney general, that would be Barr, so much for him being neutral, would be great. Biden went around bragging that he could stop the prosecution. So if you can look into it, it sounds horrible to me. And the president says, President of Ukraine says, I wanted to tell you about the prosecutor. First of all, I understand I'm knowledgeable about the situation, and that prosecutor is 100% my person. Man, they cut a deal. Donald Trump, the day before, a couple days before, withheld $400 million worth of aid to Ukraine. Then he makes the phone call. He tells the president of Ukraine, you know, you're a very special country. We help you very much. We can help you in the future. By the way, there's a certain presidential candidate running against me. I'd like you to investigate. His name is Joe Biden. Just in case. Just in case he thought he wanted to investigate Pete Buttigieg. You know, you got to make sure, D, which presidential candidate he wants to investigate. So that sure sounds like Donald Trump cutting the deal with the president of the Ukraine. First thing I thought, D, in my effort to localize absolutely everything, my first question were, where are the South Suburban police chiefs? Remember them? They were outraged. Outraged, I tell you, that Cook County State's Attorney Kim Foxx had been on the phone with Eddie Johnson of the Chicago Police Department on behalf of Justice Smollett. Remember that, D? They had a press conference. I think there was a protest. They had a rally. They wanted an investigation. They said, this is really just intolerable that there be political considerations into law enforcement. I expect them, at the very least, to have a press conference. I'm sure they're going to have right now a protest rally right down the street from us, D, calling for an investigation, calling for an impeachment into Donald Trump, who took what Kim Foxx did and tripled it.
Right down the street, like by the bagel shop?
I hope so. Well, no, in the other direction.
Oh.
I think it was across the street from where the Fraternal Order Police are.
Oh.
Anyway, you know, so I'm really looking forward to those South Suburban police chiefs having that rally to denounce Donald Trump for doing the same thing, essentially, that they were so outraged that Kim Foxx did in regards to Justice Smollett. Anyway, it's good to see that Nancy Pelosi's gotten on the impeachment bandwagon. It's good to see that the Democrats have decided that they're going to play to win instead of running around to lose weight. I got to tell you, folks, you're not going to beat Donald Trump by ducking from the fight. This guy has essentially given two middle fingers to the Democratic Party for 4 years, or 3 years, ever since he got elected. He didn't get elected with majority. He won only because we have this crazy electoral system in our country, and he acts as though he has a mandate. And the only reason he even has a chance to win re-election is because we still have that crazy electoral system. There will be more people who vote against him, guarantee you, in this election than even in the Hillary Clinton election. But he feels that he is safe and secure, that his voters will stand by him, no matter what he does, even if he tries to cut a deal with Ukraine, withholding aid to the Ukraine, if they dig up dirt in exchange for them digging up dirt on Joe Biden. So it's about time the Democrats did something serious, took this serious. It's about time they launched this impeachment inquiry. I look forward to that showdown vote. It's time to play to win, Democrats. Stop running around to lose weight. We got a great show today. Monroe Anderson be here. You know what Monroe will be talking about?
What's that?
Trump. He's so excited. He's probably running down here right now.
Still waiting for that gardening segment from Monroe Anderson.
Atiba Buchanan will be here. You know what Atiba will be talking about? Trump. He's running down here right now. And then we'll take a little break from Trump to talk some local issues. There's a strike at the University of Chicago. Kelly Kean, a striking nurse. Well, they're not on strike anymore. They were locked out. They're back to work. But they still haven't cut a deal, so she'll be updating us what's going on at the University of Chicago. Come on, folks. Got to treat your nurses with respect, University of Chicago. The nurses are on the front lines, man. Treat them like treat them so shabbily, huh?
Oh, okay.
Come on, I wasn't going to go anywhere.
Okay, thank you.
Anyway, so we have local news, national news, plenty of Trump talk. But before we do any of that, the doctor with the news.
Hey, guys, how's it going? My name's Dennis. All right. Yes, all things Donald Trump today, all right? We're taking the deepest of deep dives, all right, on this Trump impeachment, all right? Don't worry. But we do need to discuss what's happening in Illinois and or Chicago this afternoon. Actually, before we do that, we have some people weighing in on the YouTube live stream. Pat Rod weighed in. What's up, Pat Rod? He says Monroe is off by 2.5 months. LMAO.
He's... Pat Rod, that's one of the first things I'll ask Monroe. You know, Monroe's been predicting this impeachment for how long? 4th of July, didn't he? Wasn't that what it was that he said? Yeah.
Ben, for 10 trivia points, what does LMAO stand for?
LMAO. Laugh my beep off.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Come on, man. I'm a millennial.
It's laughing, but then we'll take it. We'll take it.
Look. Yeah. Oh, so tough. It's laughing.
And then Kyle brought up what I brought up to you today. So is Ben going to get a hard copy of the phone transcript like he did with the Mueller report to read on the air?
Yes, I have it right. Well, okay. Do not have the hard copy? Yes. Thank you for asking that question. I'm stuck with the phone. But I bet you tomorrow's newspaper will have such a hard copy.
And the internet probably has it too. But he'll wait for that newspaper to come
but you want that. No, it's already on the internet. I read it on my phone.
Yeah.
Oh, you're reading on the phone. And they have all the, I got to give the New York Times credit. They have the really horrible parts in orange with a little like footnote analysis of what's going on. The annotated version. So yeah, man, Trump is up to no good. And you know what? He released it. He did like, I don't care. Everybody in Alabama's going to vote for me anyway. So what do I care? Anyway, it's all up to you swing voters in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. The ball is in your hand. Don't be nervous now. Don't be Mitch Trubisky. Find your inner Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, do not be Mitch Trubisky.
No, don't be. By the way, I bumped into, I said, poor guy here in the Sun-Times. We have an employee at the Sun-Times. I'll just call him Dave.
Hey, Dave.
Yeah, and he loves the Bears. And he's very, I'll take 3 touchdowns from Mitch Trubisky anytime. Well, you got to give Dave credit, man. He's not jumping off the bandwagon, all right?
Like you did immediately after that first week.
Can we have Patrick Mahomes? Can we do a do-over to that draft? Anyway,
and that's our sports talk for today.
Anyway, swing voters, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, be like Patrick Mahomes, not Mitch Trubisky.
All right, now let's talk about what's going on in Illinois and or Chicago this afternoon. Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, well, we hope you had a good summer because it looks like you have a hell of a fall ahead of you.
This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine.
That light is shining all right. Good golly.
I know, things may not be looking good here for Lightfoot as we move into the end of the year. And we got that whole budget thing, damn near $1 billion budget deficit.
Yes, that's billion with a B.
And now it looks like she has a few union strikes to figure out. The following comes from the Chicago Sun-Times. Chicago's Park District workers announced Tuesday evening that they have voted in favor of a strike, putting added pressure on Mayor Lori Lightfoot as she's already facing looming teachers and school support staff strikes. More than 94% of the Park District employees represented by SEIU, Local 73, shout out to SEIU, they voted for they voted for a work stoppage. A union official told the crowd at a Chicago Teachers Union labor rally featuring Democratic presidential candidate, U.S. Senator, and Mr. $27 himself, Bernie Sanders. Ben, your thoughts?
Well, things have radically changed from about 6 years ago. Local 73, SEIU Local 73 had essentially cut a deal with Rahm and was looking the other way as Rahm just was like sticking it to the teachers. Things have radically changed with SEIU. That old regime is out. There's a new bunch in there, and they're much more aggressive in relationship to Lori Lightfoot. The unions of Chicago have definitely woken up. This is a whole new militancy out there. And 3 potential strikes. Bob Ryder, our good friend Bob Ryder, was on fire at the rally yesterday.
Dropped an F-bomb.
Yeah, he dropped an F-bomb.
Whoa, buddy.
Bob, what you think that was, a podcast? You can't just drop an F-bomb.
Stone Cold Steve Austin or something.
And I know you're going to go into that. Are you going to go into, do you have some updates on that at all? Because otherwise I'll just go.
On Bob Ryder going nuts?
No, the CTU thing. Well, anyway, they had a rally at the CTU headquarters over here in the West Loop, and Bernie Sanders was there. John Cusack, Dennis's favorite actor, for 10 trivia points. Dennis named 2 John Cusack movies.
High Fidelity, Say Anything.
Whoa. Dang, man, look at the brain on Brad. That's very good. For 30 trivia points, what high school did he go to?
Whitney Young.
Evanston High School. Anyway, so Cusack was there, Bernie Sanders was there, Bob Ryder was there, and it's a new militancy on the part of Chicago Union. They're sick and tired of rolling over and letting powerful mayors just give them the middle finger. In some ways, you could say it's really unfair that Lori wasn't Rahm, but she's inherited a city that he shaped. And it was really important for her, I suppose, to try to make peace with the unions instead of continuing in any way what the Rahm's attitude toward the union, which was basically boils down to shut up and get in line. There's a new militancy out here. And by the way, it all began in 2012 with the teachers, Chicago Teachers Union. Karen Lewis, the great Karen Lewis, went on strike, shocked everybody. Nobody knew how to deal with that one, D. I don't recall. I'm trying to think, were there any high-ranking Democrats who came to Chicago on behalf of the teachers in 2012? The world was a different place, D. I can't remember any. So it's good to see that the unions are speaking up and speaking up for their rights. All power to them.
All right, yeah, Bernie Sanders was in town last night along with John Cusack. Gen Xers and baby boomers, please hold your excitement. I know you guys love John Cusack. We got to continue on, though, all right?
Say Anything was a good flick.
Yeah, it was okay. All right, now the big local story that broke on Tuesday. Illinois State Senator Martin Sandoval. What the hell did you do?
Yeah.
Yes, it's our Illinois political FBI raid of the fall. The following comes from the Chicago Sun-Times, John Seidel, Tina Sfondellas, and Tom Schuba. Federal agents descended Tuesday on the home and offices of State Senator Martin Sandoval as part of an ongoing criminal investigation, adding him to the list of city and state politicians facing serious scrutiny. Feds in suits could be seen lugging boxes, electronics, and a bag marked evidence from the state capitol building in Springfield. A similar scene played out at Sandoval's southwest side home, and agents could be seen outside Sandoval's political office in Cicero. FBI Special Agent John Althen confirmed the agency had personnel in the state capitol conducting, quote, authorized law enforcement activity, but he declined to comment further. And now, well, we saw this one coming. Also declining to comment, Senator Sandoval. Yeah. Sandoval is chairman of the Senate's Transportation Committee and is known to be a fierce political fundraiser. For Illinois, it's the third office raided by the FBI in 1 year. Maybe it's a record, fingers crossed. 14th Ward Alderman Edward Butterfingers Burke, his office was raided last November. Yeah. And it was our FBI raid of the summer. Alderwoman Carrie Austin, Ben, of which ward?
That would be Ward 34.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. For 10 trivia points, who did she inherit the job from?
Ice Cube. All right, now he's a dork, people. Now,
Ice Cube.
So we're still trying to find out what is, as Ben would say, the dilly with the dally. We've learned from the last 2 times this has happened. My God, our state is shady. But we've learned that it could take months to get the details on this. So, Ben, I say this is prime speculating time, buddy. Let's speculate. Yeah. What do you think is going to go on with Sandoval?
Well, he's the 2 issues here. One, what are they looking for specifically with Sandoval? 2, who triggered it? immediately when this story broke that the feds had raided Martin Sandoval. Martin Sandoval, just folks that know this, is very powerful Southwest Side state senator and Democratic official, Democratic Party, my beloved Democratic Party, up to no good. You're testing me, Democrats. You are really testing me. He's an ally of Ed Burke. He's an ally of Michael Madigan, very well entrenched on the Southwest Side. Mark Brown wrote an excellent column in today's Sun-Times. I urge everybody to check it out, about how Marty Sandoval has always used the system well to take care of himself. So looking for and who triggered it. And immediately, the story hadn't broke when I got a text from an old friend of mine. We'll call him AJ.
Hey, AJ.
What up, AJ? And he was immediately speculating, who is the snitch? Who is the person who triggered this investigation into Sandoval? And my entry into that speculation is that this is a result of something that the FBI picked up on Danny Solis's tapes. Now, one more time, everybody, follow me in this one. Danny Solis, the former alderman of the 25th Ward, very powerful ally of Mayor Rahm and Mayor Daley, about 2014 did something that got himself in trouble with the feds, and as a result, he turned federal evidence. He put on a wire and started collecting conversations with Ed Burke. Now, there are many other people, D, whose phone calls, I presume, Danny Solis also taped. The only ones we really know about right now are Ed Burke and a meeting that Danny Solis set up with Michael Madigan that took place, I think, in 2014. But I'm sure his phone conversation, I'm sure I'm on one of those. I call Danny Solis from time to time. Oh, my God. Right now, the feds.
Our days are numbered.
Well, it's true. I'm always cutting deals to get guests to come on this show, but never those kinds of deals, folks. It's like, please come on the show. More like that kind of deal. So anyway, my bet is that there's something on those tapes, those Danny Solis tapes, that are probably going to implicate quite a few Chicago politicians. That's the scuttlebutt. That's what I believe anyway, and I think that a lot of other people believe it as well. So my guess is somehow or other linked to Danny Solis. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a squeeze play. You know that old squeeze play, D, where you get a lower level politician, you squeeze him to testify against a higher one. I mean, I can't believe the feds are going through all this effort using Danny Solis to wear a wire, collect all this information on phone calls, conversations with powerful Democrats. Are going to stop with Marty Sandoval. Good God. Oh, well, I guess they got Ed Burke, so that's a powerful Chicago pol. And we'll see how high up the food chain it goes. But right now they're at Marty. I'll tell you what, Danny Solis, Danny Solis, I've been kind of rethinking Danny Solis. This is something I could never imagine I would ever say. Danny Solis and I were never on the same side politically of anything other than we were both Democrats. But he was with Daley. He was with Rahm. He was a Daley appointee. I voted for every single deal that Daley put out there. Voted for every single deal that Rahm put out there in reward for his utter loyalty. Rahm put him in charge of the zoning committee, so he greenlit every bad TIF deal that we have, every zoning deal, whether it was good or bad. When it was necessary, he said that you have to vote for a certain zoning change because the local alderman wanted it. And then when necessary, he threw aldermanic prerogative out the window, like just to pick one example, when he forced Alderman Nick Sposato to take a charter school in his ward that he didn't want, to pass the zoning to take a UNO charter school in Nick Sposato's ward that Nick Sposato didn't want. So he would say anything at any time to benefit a powerful mayor and his agenda. But having said all that, it was Danny Solis' decision to wear that wire that got the goods on Ed Burke and has forced Ed Burke out of power. Essentially, still an alderman, but he's no longer the chair of the finance committee. He no longer has slate-making control of the Democratic Party over judges. He's a figure of derision. Nobody will dare. We had Ray Lopez in the studio yesterday, D, and we talked about this. Anytime anybody speaks up against Lori Lightfoot, they're quick to say, oh, he's just speaking up on Ed Burke. So now people can use Ed Burke to sort of diminish the independent rhetoric of an alderman, like a maverick alderman like Ray Lopez. So he has become a figure of derision. And, in a strange, winding way, we owe it all to Danny Solis. So there, I said something nice about Danny Solis, and he's probably the reason Marty Sandoval's in trouble as well. Danny Solis is the agent of all this. Can't wait to hear those phone calls, D. By the way, man, you got to give it. I'll say this about Donald Trump. He got the transcript of his phone call out a lot faster than we're getting those Danny Solis phone calls. Come on, prosecutors here in Chicago. Let's see the goods on the Danny Solis phone calls.
All right, so let's see what people are saying here after the raid. We got Illinois Public Radio here. Chicago-based FBI spokesman John Alton refused to confirm the target of the raid or say what it was about, saying, quote, "All I can say at this point is we are engaged in an authorized law enforcement activity. Beyond that, we've got no further comment," Alton said by phone. Asked if agents from Chicago were in the Capitol building, he said, quote, "They're present, yes."
Okay.
At least 8 men in suits left the Capitol carrying 2 cardboard boxes, several brown bags labeled evidence, like we said, and what appeared to be a desktop computer wrapped in plastic. They loaded the items into an SUV and left without speaking to reporters. Calls to Sandoval's Capitol and district offices were not returned Tuesday. A spokesman for Senate President John Cullerton also declined to comment. ABC 7 says that business owners near his district office were surprised by the raids. Here's, I guess, one business person, quote, "We saw the cameras coming up over here." He's with Dell Plumbing Company. His name's Harry. This guy sounds kind of cool.
No, come on. He just goes by the name Harry?
Well, his last name, Harry Lamiot.
Oh, they gave his last. I thought you liked Madonna, just one name.
Harry, just call me Harry.
All right.
No, he says, we saw the cameras coming up over here. To tell you the truth, we never see him, very much of him. They're kind of private, it seems, at least for us. And then CBS 2 reports that people in Sandoval's neighborhood say they know he lives there, but they don't see him much. Very private guy, Ben Joravsky. And it looks like Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot was asked about it. In an interview with the Chicago Sun-Times, Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot said that she was, quote, "not surprised by the Sandoval office raid," noting that she has no specific knowledge about Sandoval one way or another, and if needed, she would be willing to talk more about it. Perhaps over a luncheon. I made that last part. She loves luncheons, everybody. By the way, Mayor Lightfoot's Wednesday schedule includes a trip to the Hatchery to announce new investments in minority-owned small businesses on the south and west sides. Where I'm from, a hatchery is where you buy baby chickens. Then to Lindblom Math and Science Academy.
Lindblom.
Oh, Lindblom. Oh, they should put another O in there.
Yeah.
It's Lindblom.
What can I tell you? It's Chicago, man.
That's weird. Then to Lindblom Math and Science Academy to attend, I guess it's not the spelling academy, to attend the Youth Budget Town Hall.
Okay, that's very good. By the way, FBI's been on my mind a lot lately. We had that the interview with Bob Herguth from the Sun-Times. That when did that drop? On Sunday, do you? I can find at the Sun-Times with the files that the FBI kept on prominent Chicago, and I wrote a story about it for the Reader as well. And so just it's like the FBI, it's like double, like two sides of the same body. On one hand, you have these FBI investigators who are cracking down on corruption in the city of Chicago, and they're the lead investigators into things like, Burke's shading dealings, and now they're going after Martin Sandoval and Kerry Austin. And then the other hand, we have this legacy of the FBI collecting information on all kinds of ordinary citizens and up to no good in the 60s, harassing Martin Luther King, listening to his phone conversations, listening to what he's doing in his private hotel rooms, sending off the tapes, the transcripts of the tapes to people to try to harass Martin Luther King. Really, in one case, they wanted to drive him to commit suicide. They sent him a letter urging him to commit suicide, calling him a fraud, et cetera, and so forth. And so it's like this two sides of the FBI, and it's really hard for me as a baby boomer who remembers what went down in the 60s and 70s to just like totally divorce myself from that day. I have to admit, I struggle with this when I hear like, oh, the FBI raided. Good for the FBI. That's great. They're looking at Chicago corruption, and I think about those files that Bob Herguth has been collecting. I hear it at the Sun-Times, and I'm like, two sides of the FBI. Very schizophrenic there.
Sounds like a great time to plug our Benny J bonus interviews. Hear that interview with Hergith, the FBI files, at both Chicago Sun-Times and Chicago Reader websites and wherever else you download your favorite podcast. Ben, what's been your favorite Benny J bonus interview since we've done these?
Oh, my absolute favorite. I mean, I don't want to like.
Yeah, let's do it.
I mean, I don't. I love them all. Okay, you ask me like, which kid do you like best? Huh? I love all my kids, but I got to tell you, I'm thinking about this. The Alden Lowry interview that we did in June, I want to say, that was a lot of fun. Alden Lowry is, of course, he's the WBEZ editor, and he spends a lot of time studying demographic changes in the city of Chicago. And we just got this wide-ranging conversation about race in the city. We're rough. Well, no, I'm older than him, but it was a good conversation about schools and neighborhoods and changes in Chicago. But probably my all-time favorite has nothing to do with politics. It's the one where I gathered the movie geeks into the room, Chris Buddy and Chris Adams
what
and
movie,
Sergio
what movie
Mims.
that you were talking
Once
about?
Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah.
4 movie geeks. We took the deep dive for over an hour talking about that movie, and people are still downloading that one. And that interview begins with spoiler alert. Don't listen unless you've seen the movie because we talk about the ending. But I guess enough people have seen the movie now they don't have to worry about it. So anyway, that may be my personal. Oh, Joe Cowley and the Bulls. How can I forget that one?
There's so many Ben Joravsky bonus interviews. Go check them out. And this Friday, actually, we're doing a brand new bonus interview special. It's got to be something different. We're going to try it out because our host, Ben Joravsky, absolutely loves asking people trivia questions. We've decided to create a brand new special here. We're calling it For 10 Trivia Points. We're going to try it out, see how it goes. We got Ramana Hussein of the Chicago Sun-Times going head-to-head with Carrie Reed of the Chicago Reader. Who's smarter, the Reader or the Chicago Sun-Times? We're going to find out with our show For 10 Trivia Points. We're going to do it live, too. We're live streaming on Facebook and on YouTube as well. And it'll be available for download as a Benny J bonus interview.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And also tomorrow, another bonus, we have Dan Savage, Savage Love and the Reader. Many of you read that column for years and years. Dan Savage will be in the studio for a bonus interview. And we'll be talking politics. Dan really is very knowledgeable about politics. A lot of Trump talk, obviously. A lot of Dan's always been pushing. He's like me in this regards. He's been trying to get the Democrats to be a little more aggressive in attacking Donald Trump, not just roll over and hope it all blows over and the swing voters go our way. That Rahm advice. So it'd be a lot of fun talking to Dan Savage about politics tomorrow.
All right, and feel free to weigh in on the YouTube live stream, by the way, everybody. We got Kyle. He weighed in here on the live stream chat. He says about Sandoval here, let's hope the senators won't be like the aldermen. Quote, we don't tell on each other in this chamber.
Well, it's funny you should say that. I have not seen that reaction yet. When you're absolutely correct. When the word broke that Danny Solis was wearing the wire and secretly recording conversations with Ed Burke, there was a response from aldermen in the council. They were mad at Danny Solis. They called him a snitch. Oh, how could he betray us? They weren't even mad at Ed Burke, who was up to no good. They were mad at Danny Solis. But, in retrospect, I have to say that Danny Solis may have done us all a favor. Should he still get his pension? That's a tough question, right? Should he still get his pension? One could argue he did a great service to the city of Chicago by collecting information on Ed Burke. On the other hand, one could also point out that the only reason he wore that wire is because he was up to no good in the first place. So,
It's a thinker.
It's a thinker. I don't know about that one.
I'll tell you what's not a thinker and who definitely deserves their pension, the good folks at the Chicago Sun-Times. Hey, podcast fans, the team at the Sun-Times have a new show to add to your listening lineup. That's right, we have podcast neighbors, Ben. This football season, get the inside scoop on the Chicago Bears with Hallis Intrigue. It's the latest podcast from the Chicago Sun-Times. You can tune in to hear Sun-Times sports and reporters and Bears experts, a ton of them, all right? A lot of them, and you can stay informed this football season. Listen to Hallis Intrigue at suntimes.com/Hallis, and be sure to subscribe so that you never miss an episode. Check it out now at suntimes.com suntimes.com/Hallis. That's suntimes.com/HALAS. Isn't that right, Robert Mueller?
That's correct.
Hey, don't go anywhere. The Ben Joravsky Show will be right back, and coming up shortly. What's so funny?
I love when Robert Mueller weighs in. It was the day after he said that's correct, that Trump was on the phone with the president of Ukraine, getting that president to investigate Biden. Trump never learns. Trump doesn't care. He thinks he could do anything, ladies and gentlemen. And you know what? Until now, the Democrats were willing to let him get away with it. They were like, oh, I'm so worried about a swing voter in Michigan. Let him do it. Let him do it. Please vote for us, swing voter, please. No wonder the Democrats lose so much. Anyway, Nancy Pelosi, no more.
Hey, what are you talking about?
No collusion.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
All right, don't go anywhere. More of the Ben Joravsky Show coming up. Monroe Anderson, he's going to be joining us for another Monroe midweek with Monroe, midday. I can't remember what we call it, but it's Monroe Anderson, and he's fantastic. Don't go anywhere. It's the Ben Joravsky Show, live from the Chicago Sun-Times. Read the Chicago Reader to get up to speed on what's what in Chicago. Culture, food, arts and entertainment, weekly concert listings, weekly event listings, the environment, travel. I can continue, but you get the point. And for all of you Chicago political junkies, raw weekly columns on real city politics from Maya Dukmasova and our very own Ben Joravsky. The Chicago Reader, free to the public in newsstands throughout the city and online at chicagoreader.com. Read it now and be a more informed Chicagoan. Attention Chicago innovators and creators, 2019 Chicago Ideas Week is coming soon. October 12th through the 17th, this annual Ideas Festival is back, and it's the largest, most affordable Ideas Festival of its kind. They bring in hundreds of thought leaders from around the globe and some local to share ideas and spark action all across Chicago. To get a better idea of what to expect, here's a bit of audio from last year's Chicago Ideas Week with special guest and Chicago comedian Cameron Esposito.
Everything that I have ever tried to do has had two motivations. One is I really do believe in trying to create social change, and then the other one is I'm scared and alone too, so I would like for you to join me. You know, every job that I have, I try to make sure to hold the door open. That's like my motto for like if I get through, you're coming with me, and I believe in that wholeheartedly, and especially if I have more privilege than you, like I'm holding the door open for you even wider.
October 12th through the 17th, it's 2019 Chicago Ideas Week. Tickets go on sale to members on August 22nd and to general public September 10th. Once again, if you're an innovator or creator in the city of Chicago or even outside the city, you must join us for Chicago Ideas Week, October 12th through the 17th. For tickets and event information, head to chicagoideas.com. That's chicagoideas.com, and we hope to see you October 12th through the 17th for 2019 Chicago Ideas Week. Welcome back to the Ben Joravsky Show, live from the Chicago Sun-Times.
Monroe Anderson is here. He's wearing an outstanding shirt. I love that shirt. And I wish I was wearing that shirt. Let's just put it that way. Well, this is a big day for you, Monroe.
Yes.
The Democrats have finally,
At
long last,
Yes.
You, I think, may have been calling for an impeachment investigation, impeachment inquiry leading for a vote. I believe since the day after Trump was inaugurated.
No.
Did you wait a week?
Since the first day of your show.
Okay, which was all right. That would have been
on a different platform.
Everything was different. All right. So obviously we're going to be talking about Nancy Pelosi's. The press conference was yesterday. The announcement was yesterday as we were leaving the show.
Monroe, I got your email. Don't worry. I got the song for you. Don't worry. Oh, my goodness. It's the Hallelujah song, but I didn't have it.
Okay.
Hold on a second. Yeah,
Okay.
whatever. It's the Hallelujah song.
Oh, yeah. No, this is a moment that you've been waiting for.
There it is.
Yeah.
That's for you, buddy.
Okay. You know, in a few months, the one I want you to play for me is ding dong, the witch is dead.
All right. Well, you know as well as I know that this will not end. We'll hold off on this for a moment. I'm just going to put this out. This will not end with Republicans voting against. You know that. You know that.
I don't know that. I don't know that. This is what's going to happen. Okay. Well, right now, we are 4 votes away from impeachment inquiry. 214 Democrats have come out for an impeachment inquiry now. It was in the past 24 hours, 60-some Democrats have shifted from, I don't know.
So worried about those swing voters.
Exactly. To this is outrageous.
Yeah.
Hang him.
And so how many do you need? I've lost track of how many.
218. They're 4 away.
4 away.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a given.
All right. So no Republicans are going to join them.
Maybe a Moss. They may.
And he's technically an independent, I think, at this stage.
No, he
but
quit.
whatever. Okay. All right. We're getting ahead of ourselves here because ultimately we still have to get to the impeachment inquiry. Then we have to get to a vote to impeach. And then you have to have a trial in the Senate. And this will drag out for a long time. We'll be talking about this for a long, long time.
Maybe. Probably, but not definitely.
Yeah.
Because theoretically, the House only has 30 more days on this calendar. The rest of the time they're on vacation or having holidays or doing something, but not being in D.C. So maybe Speaker Pelosi will cancel vacations and holidays and go full steam ahead on this. Or maybe they'll go into next year with it still going on and see how well Trump runs on having hearings day in and day out on all his corrupt deeds.
All right. So let's just start a little bit like what happened yesterday. Let's catch people up because it's 2 things, major things have happened within not even 24 hours. The first was, as I said, our 3 o'clock or so our time, or 2 o'clock. The word broke that Nancy Pelosi had called for an inquiry. Then today, Donald Trump, the White House, released a transcript.
Well, actually, it's a memo, not a transcript. It's not a pure. I mean, they're saying it's a transcript, but as usual, they're lying.
Valid point. Talk about the distinction.
Okay, the distinction is somebody has recorded what we're doing now, and they type it and give it to you verbatim.
Yeah.
Versus somebody listens to what we say and then write a summary of what we said.
Okay. Now, I see. So this is, although it reads when you, have you read it? I've actually been reading it in between breaks while we've been on the show. It sounds a lot like Donald Trump. I'm just going to start off with
it is Donald Trump. Yeah, right.
Here we go. This is, I mean, this sounds like, when I'm reading this, it sounds, this one section, I just went to this one section. I heard you had a prosecutor who was very good and he was shut down, and that's really unfair. A lot of people are talking about that, the way they shut your very good prosecutor down, and you had some very bad people involved.
Time out. You're sounding too intelligent. Put on your dumb voice.
Yeah, dumb it down a bit.
Okay. That's just so Trump, though. Just think about that, how the repetition of certain words. Good, because I heard you had a prosecutor who was very good, and he was shut down, and that's really unfair. A lot of people are talking about that, the way they shut your very good prosecutor down, and you had some very bad people involved. Good, shut down, bad. You know what I mean? It's just emphasis.
No, it's
Donald Trump.
Okay, no.
Wait, here we go.
Okay.
Mr. Giuliani is a highly respected man.
Right.
He was the mayor of New York City, a great mayor, and I would like to have him call you.
Right.
That sounds like Donald J.
It's Trump. It's Trump. No, what they did was, first of all, they have more than one person listening in on these calls and taking notes. And so they've combined them, and that's why it's not a transcript. Because in my taking them down and your taking them down, we may have heard things differently. I may have missed a word or two. You may have missed a word or two, so they combine it.
All right. Now,
it's basically what went down.
Which went down. Do you think did you read this? Did you have a chance to read this?
I've had it read to me by various people on MSNBC. Yeah, right, exactly.
All right. I've read this.
The key parts.
Do you think there's anything that was kept out of it? In other words, you're suggesting that by talking about a difference between a transcript and notes, do you think that something has been omitted?
I don't know. This is why we need the whistleblower there talking, and we need them to release a tape, Trump to release a tape. They're going to get the whistleblower. I'm not sure they're getting the release of the...
Is there a tape?
Yeah, of the recording, yeah, I think so. They don't know for sure, but they think there is.
I just don't know. I've not seen that. Is there exactly? That would be. Then the issue would become: did they doctor the tape? Anything is possible with Donald Trump.
Exactly. But the thing is, I mean, what's so silly about this, as far as I'm concerned, is we're arguing about whether the transcript is this way, or tape would be that way, or the whistleblower would be that way. Trump has admitted to the crime.
Yeah.
Giuliani has admitted to the crime. So it's no question that it was committed. And so instead of the Democrats going on with the hand-wringing about how we need more evidence, and that's, it's like the body's there. Here's a smoking gun right here.
And here's the confession.
Right, exactly. Right. And Trump said, I shot him on Fifth Avenue.
Yeah, I did it. So what?
Right, exactly.
I'd do it again.
Right. He got in the way of my bullet.
Yeah. So it's yeah, and it was finally too much for the Democrats. And by the way, this has happened so fast. I don't even know this. It broke the last week when you were here. I don't think the whistleblower had emerged.
No.
So this is the story, of course, that broke everybody when out of nowhere it emerged that there had been a whistleblower complaint lodged by some unknown employee of the federal government who contended that Donald Trump had crossed the line in his private conversation with the president of Ukraine.
It was an urgent request or something. I forget the term they use, but it means it needs immediate attention.
The complaint needs immediate attention, immediate investigation.
The whistleblower.
Yeah. And the whistleblower's report was, or the news of the whistleblower's report was released by Democratic congressmen who were demanding that the White House turn over the whistleblower's report.
Right.
They've not turned over the whistleblower's.
Well, Trump's initial, classic Trump. His initial response was, well, there was somebody who turned it over, but they were a partisan Democrat. And we don't even know if he knew who the whistleblower was, but obviously if they were going to say something bad about him, they were partisan. Mm-hmm. Because there's no such thing as a patriotic bureaucrat.
By the way, this reminds me, so much has happened about Donald Trump. But if we go back, remember I think it was an article in the New York Times by some unnamed White House aide who said that we routinely bury stuff that Trump wants us to do because we know it's unlawful or unconstitutional or just bad policy. Remember this?
Right.
It caused a furor. It was investigating who was this person that, he wrote as anonymously. We still don't know who it was.
Well, yeah, except I think it was not a he, but a she.
You think it was a she?
Yeah.
You think it was Ivanka?
No.
No, just kidding.
No. God, I'm forgetting her name. The blonde who lies all the time for him.
No, it was not Kellyanne.
Kellyanne. I think it was Kelly. Yes.
Oh, my
goodness.
No
way. No, seriously. In the books that have been written to date, they have her, they talk about, various writers talk about how she was complaining about the leaks as she was leaking.
Yeah.
Like she'd be on the phone leaking, then she'd come off and go on the air and complain about how people were leaking in Trump's thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I have a hard time believing that person was. But anyway, there's this history. What I'm saying, there's this history of people in the White House who take it upon themselves to try to keep Donald Trump from doing insanity, doing insane things. And so this is just sort of...
Well, they can't keep him from doing insane things, but they try to keep his insanity contained enough where it doesn't destroy the country or the world.
Yeah. But in this particular case, they couldn't stop him from making the phone call. He did it, Monroe. Again, I can't get over this. The day after Robert Mueller.
He got away. From his perspective, the problem with Trump is all his life, he's been a poor little rich boy who has suffered no consequences, no major consequences. But he's never, his problem is why his ego is so messed up, is because he's never been accepted by the really rich in New York or by anybody, because everybody knows he's a buffoon. You know, I mean, he tried to become a major NFL league owner, team owner, and they didn't let him do it. You know, they wouldn't let him in their club. The closest club he got to being in was the WWF.
Yeah, no, he was also with the I don't know if you remember. There's a rival league.
Yeah,
I've talked about this many times. You should watch a documentary about how he destroyed that rival league.
Right.
Yeah, but anyway, so continue with your.
Yeah. So he's the man's ego is like severely damaged. Mm-hmm. His self-perception. He's a self-hater who compensates by attacking everybody else. You notice he projects a lot of stuff. You know, Biden is the crook when really he's the crook. Hillary is the puppet, Putin's puppet, when really he's Putin's puppet. I mean, whatever it is, whenever he attacks somebody, if you watch his actions and think about it, he's usually projecting. It's actually what he is that he's projecting onto someone else.
So what is the chief projection going to be in the aftermath of releasing the transcript?
Oh, he's done that already. He's saying that it proves that he's innocent. That it was a cheery conversation between them, where they praised each other, they love each other.
Well, they did. There was a lot of that going on in this conversation.
Well, you know, this is the thing. This is the problem with this, is that the Ukraine needs American support. Because Putin took Crimea, and they're in a shooting war with Russia right now. Mm-hmm. So they need the weapons. And Trump held up the money.
Yeah.
And then he called
this conversation.
Right before this conversation, and right after the Mueller report. Yeah. Trump held up $400 million we were supposed to give him, and mysteriously. And then he gets on the phone and he has a conversation. And so the newly elected president of the Ukraine has to suck up to Trump.
Yes.
And so that's what he's doing. He knows, like everybody else in the world who has a double-digit IQ, knows that if you want to get to Trump, you compliment him.
Yeah.
You're friendly with him. You're his buddy. You want him in your club. And then you get stuff from him.
Yeah, and that is exactly what the Ukrainian president does. President does a lot of sucking up to Donald Trump.
Right.
And it's at this point, I'm not quite sure who sucks up to Donald Trump more, the president of Ukraine or Vice President Michael Pence. It's really close in my mind. Like, who speaks more highly of the president when talking to him directly?
Oh, no. Pence is like the king of the sucker-uppers.
He's the champ.
He's a master.
He's a master. He's mastering this art.
Exactly.
So anyway, you're absolutely correct. Donald Trump withheld the money, then has the conversation, extols the virtues of the president of Ukraine. The Ukraine extols the virtues of Donald Trump.
And of course, the reason there's this problem to begin with is because President Obama gave the Ukraine to Putin.
Oh, yeah.
It's Obama's fault.
Yeah, that's not literally what Monroe thinks, but that's Monroe's.
This is Trump's explanation.
And then Trump says to him, and it's like out of The Godfather, where it's veiled. He goes, "There's things we could do for you."
Right.
It's straight out of The Godfather.
Right.
There's things we could do for you.
Exactly. I got an offer you can't refuse.
Yeah, I things we could do for you.
Right.
And there's things you could do for us.
Right, exactly.
And then he mentions Biden. I thought, he'd be slick and he wouldn't mention Biden.
Right. There's not a slick bone in the man's body. That's what he's about. He's not about being slick.
Yeah, he made sure it was Biden. That's my favorite part. Biden, right? Not Buttigieg. You maybe get confused and start investigating the wrong Democrat.
And
Warren. Not Warren.
And Hillary, too.
No, we're going to talk about this further with Atiba. Trump is obsessed with Biden. He's obsessed with Biden.
Because Biden, there have been 70-some polls, and Biden has beaten him in every last one. 70 polls, Biden wins, Trump loses.
And here's the thing, Monroe. Pretty much everybody that comes in this room, all right, there's a generational line. Let me put it. Everybody below the age of 50 cannot bring. They're all lefties. I mean, we get all Democrats on this show. And every single one of them is like either vehemently against Biden. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Or at best they'll concede he might be a good candidate. Okay. Then you get the people above the age of 50 who like Biden, but they're embarrassed to say they like Biden. Their voice literally drops when they mention Biden's name. Like, I'm for Biden. They're ashamed that they're for Biden. And I always tell them, I'm speaking of my dear friend Linda out there, she knows I'm talking about her. If you're for Biden, say it loud and be proud. That's your guy, right?
Right.
And then you get into the racial divide. Generally, the people who are unafraid to say they're for Biden are older black people. You know this as well as I do.
Right.
Until their kids get a hold of them.
Right.
Then their kids start talking. And even the older black people are going, well, I've been talking to my son and I want, and then they get that.
But no, this is the problem for Trump, is that the disappearing, transferring old white men who went for Trump could go with Biden.
Yeah, I like
and
Joe.
Exactly. Joe's one of us. Trump is a fake one of us. He's pretending like he's one of the people. Joe's one of us, and that's what Trump has his base. And if he loses that base, boom.
But see, this whole thing is predicated on the Trump view of the upcoming election, which I guess they share. And that is that the election will come down to voters who voted for Barack Obama in 2012 and they voted for Donald Trump in 2016.
Right.
Which way will they go?
Right.
It doesn't matter what anybody else does.
Right.
It doesn't matter what your kids do. It doesn't matter what my kids do. It doesn't, it doesn't matter in what our next guest, Kelly, it doesn't matter what anybody does. It's coming down to a handful of swing voters.
Right.
And Trump's mind, they could go for Biden.
Right.
And so he's afraid of Joe Biden.
Right. But if you pay any attention to the polls whatsoever, then you'll notice that Elizabeth Warren can beat Trump. She's beating Trump. Your boy Bernie's beating Trump. Kamala Harris is tying with Trump. I mean,
is she?
Yeah.
I haven't seen that poll.
Yeah.
Why isn't she beating? She should be mopping the floor with Trump.
I think she has one thing, she's been spending all her time raising money instead of campaigning, actually being out there pressing the flesh. But the other thing is, I think she has an authenticity problem. She has like Hillary, she has that phony laugh, or it's not phony, but
you said it. Come on, you said it.
No, forced maybe. I don't know if it's phony or not. But it doesn't sound
All right, it's been a while since I had any of the Kamala Kool-Aid. Let's put that to the side. But this obsession, Trump, and the one thing it reminds me of, and you'll know this because you're the only old person out here that old enough to remember this. None of our younger listeners will know this, but back in 1969, Richard Nixon was obsessed with Ted Kennedy. He's obsessed with the Kennedys in general.
Right.
And two Kennedys have been killed. Bobby Kennedy and John Kennedy, and the third surviving Kennedy politician was Senator Ted Kennedy from Massachusetts. And Nixon was so afraid that Ted Kennedy would be the nominee in 1972, and then Ted Kennedy had the accident at Chappaquiddick. They immediately sent investigators from the Nixon White House. This is how much has changed, Monroe. Nixon was behind the scenes doing that. He wasn't openly proclaiming like Donald Trump does. You know?
Well, no. To be fair to Trump.
Oh my God, to be fair.
Right.
This will be interesting coming out of Monroe's mouth.
He was on a telephone conversation, not before Mike. And that's his idea of being private.
I see.
And discreet.
Okay. But anyway, this utter obsession that Donald Trump has with Joe Biden, where he was having, and so he, in his mind, he must believe that Joe Biden is the only Democrat who can beat him.
No, he doesn't believe he's the only one, but right now that's who he's focused on because he's beating him so badly. In most of those polls, not all, but in most of those polls, Biden is beating Trump double digit. So there's no margin of error there. I mean, that's just a can of whoop ass being open.
So what do you think, going back to the phone conversation with the president of Ukraine, what do you think is different about what went down there than what went down in all the other examples of Trump treachery? Why is this?
Well, this is what we have. First of all, this Ukraine gate is Russia 2.0. It's the second version. It's basically Trump colluded with the Russians to get elected in 2016, and by colluded, I mean they weren't coordinating. Maybe, well, I mean, we'll see, but it hasn't been proven that they were actually coordinating. But it was that they were managing to read each other's moves, or there was, like the Russia, if you hear me, get Hillary's email, find Hillary's email. Trump was a citizen then, and that was history. Mm-hmm. Trump is now the president, and you have the president of the United States saying, "Can you help a brother out?"
Didn't quite say it exactly like that. Didn't quite say it exactly like that, Monroe.
Right. And so they're going, damn, man. This man has all the power in the world, and he's using it against his political opponent now for next year. There's no more of this, well, it happened and maybe it didn't happen. I mean, this is blatant, in your face extortion. And that was the straw that broke the camel's back.
And even Nancy Pelosi had to say enough.
Right. Exactly.
Enough. My guest is Monroe Anderson. We're talking. Monroe's doing like a mini victory lap. Although, as I can't remember which listener was pointed out, you're a little late, Monroe.
Well, no. I'm not late. The Democrats are late. I was on time. They should have done this July 4th this year. They've wasted a good 5 months.
Yeah. But wasn't there also a prediction somewhere down the line, not to embarrass you with your predictions, that Donald Trump himself would step down? Am I imagining that prediction? D, was there a prediction like that?
No, the prediction was that either he'd be impeached or step down.
I see.
Yes.
All right.
And it's still time for him to step down, too.
Well, I do not believe that's going to happen. When we come back, we're going to talk about the political fallout, the political fight that is ahead of us. Monroe Anderson on the show. We'll be right back after this.
Here you go, Monroe. Today's Ben Joravsky Show was brought to you in part by Chicago Architecture Center. Get to know your city on one of Chicago Architecture Center's 65 walking tours. Hear the unforgettable secrets and stories behind Chicago architecture from our expert docents. Book your tour at architecture.org/tours. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm actually on a tour right now. Oh, wow, look at that building. Get a special discount for Illinois residents from July 15th to August 15th. All Illinois residents get 50% off select walking tours. Visit architecture.org/IL-resident. Hey, everybody, if you're listening live, I'm going to go grab our guest, Atiba Buchanan. Going to go get him real quick. Until then, Ben, who is that piano player you love?
Hey, everybody, what you're about to hear are the piano stylings of Jeff Manuel. Man, listen to Jeff go. Jeff Manuel has been playing piano around Chicago for years. He's played for conventions, for celebrities, played in basement bars with blues bands. He's played at prestigious social clubs, fine restaurants, and in the intimacy of private homes. Book Jeff Manuel at jeffemanuelpianist.com. Don't worry, I'll spell his name at the end of this commercial. You know what Chicago Magazine said? They said that Jeff Manuel is, quote, as comfortable with Chopin as he is with Cole Porter. He's excellent and his performance is joyous. He offers an elegant stream of compositions and interpretations that entertains the mind but won't hurt the ears. To hear more of Jeff Manuel's work and to book Jeff for your next event, go to jeffmanuelpianist.com. I'm going to spell it out for you, people. J-E-F-F M as in Mary, A, N as in Nancy, UELPIANIST.com. Take it away, Jeff Manuel.
Oh, yeah, that's his name, Jeff Manuel. Ben Joravsky Show, hour number 2 for Wednesday, September 25th is just moments away. But before we get into that, we need to thank the following unions for sponsoring our program. First up, it's the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, Local 126 in District 8, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 9, the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150, and of course, today's show is brought to you by our good friends at the Chicago Federation of Labor. Hour number 2. Let's go. It is Wednesday, September 25th, and live from the Chicago Sun-Times Chicago Reader Studio on Racine Avenue, this is the Ben Joravsky Show. In this hour of the program, we still got Monroe Anderson in studio. We welcome back host of Humanity in the Headlines, co-host Atiba Buchanan, and we welcome University of Chicago nurse Kelly Kean. And now your host, owner of 3 Nancy Pelosi lunchboxes, Chicago Reader columnist Ben Joravsky.
Yeah, Nancy Pelosi. I was on the Nancy Pelosi bandwagon long before it was fashion. Boy, did I get abuse from my friends of the leftist persuasion. Atiba Buchanan, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, sir.
You are looking so dapper. People who are watching us on the YouTube live. The cufflinks, got the
Thank
tie.
you, sir. Appreciate it.
Was there a job interview or something?
No,
or is
this is strictly for Ben J.
Okay,
baby.
I appreciate that. Big day, of course. Nancy Pelosi yesterday came out and said she's ready to launch the official inquiry. Enough messing around and waiting, dilly-dallying, worrying about swing voters in Michigan and Wisconsin.
Yep.
Let's go on the attack. And then Donnie Trump in the White House releases not a transcript, but what?
Memo, I guess.
A memo of what Trump has said, and obviously a line.
And the reason he did that is because the U.S. Senate voted 100%. Every senator said, release the thing.
So, okay, but he did not release the thing.
Right.
The thing would be an official transcript sanctioned by, notarized, and or better yet, a tape, or in conjunction with the transcript. Atiba, what line has been crossed here?
Well, this is different than what was done with the Mueller report, and it's real simple. This is digestible. The Mueller report was so layered, so many strings, so many moving parts to keep up with, that the average person who is not steeped into politics, it was just mind-blowing and overwhelming. People need to, and especially in politics, it needs to be something that's simple. And finally, this is the thing that is simple and it is digestible. He asked a foreign country to investigate what he assumed would be his political opponent for 2020, and he did so by dangling aid, and it's almost irrefutable because he's admitted to at least asking for the aid from a foreign country. We can't forget he interviewed with George Papadopoulos just a few months ago, and he said on camera that he would welcome again foreign help in another election. He said, "Who would call the FBI? That's not how the world works, George. No, that's not what I would do." Stephanopoulos. Yeah, George Stephanopoulos.
You're right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So again, he interviewed with him. He said that. So now we see. First, it was kind of hypothetical, because again, Stephanopoulos hit him with the hypothetical, but now we see it actually happening, the literal, and he is doing it, and he is guilty of it, and he's admitted it. So again, and the average person now can actually understand it, and I think that is the difference, is that this is something digestible. Keep in mind too, this is the biggest gift the Democrats could have asked for, in so much as, if you remember, and we have short memories, right before this happened, the talk of the town was the debacle of a hearing with Corey Lewandowski.
Yeah, we talked about that last time.
And Democrats were looking very, very inept. So they got a gift with this one.
And also, Nancy was not going to go through with the impeachment at all. She was throwing wet towels on it.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what I'm saying. You couldn't blame her because look how they handled Lewandowski. Right. I wouldn't have put my neck out there for that either.
Right.
Well, now, okay. Before we go into how they're going to handle this latest, what do you think were the shortcomings of Lewandowski hearing?
They didn't have a plan. It's almost as if it seems like Democrats operate in a different reality sometimes. To the average person, it appeared to me that it would be obvious that he was going to be a hostile witness.
Corey Lewandowski, the former political aide to Donald Trump. Go ahead.
Campaign manager.
Oh, yes, correct. Mm-hmm.
And so when you we've all watched Law and Order. We've seen him say, "Your Honor, permission to treat the witness as hostile," and they should have been prepared for that. Half of the people in Congress are lawyers. So I was just wholly disappointed.
But not good ones. That's the problem. That's why they went into politics.
Exactly. So I was just wholly disappointed in what appears to be a lack of preparedness. Why would you think, when I say they operate in a different reality, they literally thought they were going to get this guy in front of them and he was going to just answer their questions as they were asked. And no, he made it. I mean, so it's they either stonewall and don't come before Congress, or they come before Congress and don't answer any questions. And the Democrats, to date, there's not a single witness, including Bob Mueller, that they've been able to extrapolate some type of momentum from appearing in front of Congress.
Well, they got Lewandowski when they brought a professional prosecutor in at the end.
A working lawyer,
a working lawyer, yeah, right. Somebody who could think on his feet.
And was not worried about a soundbite and was not worried about advancing his political career.
And they should have opened with that.
Right.
All right.
Yeah, right. I said that last week.
Yes, you did, because that was last week.
Right.
Things have changed
so
what I mean.
Much. That's what I mean. It was just a week ago that's what we were discussing, and now it's all this. So Democrats should really count their lucky stars with this one.
Well, if I know one thing about my beloved Democratic Party, and I've been a Democrat my whole life, they can screw anything up.
Yeah.
Atiba and Monroe, they could screw it up.
Yep.
They're too cautious. They're too scared. They listen to the Rahms of the world, and they drop the ball. So, what are they going to do? You're absolutely. We have. It's okay, not a transcript, but we have an account of what the president said, where he was dangling aid in exchange for dirt on Biden. We have that on.
Well, I think Lewandowski pimp slapped him so badly that they woke up. They became woke, and so now they're developing a plan. I mean, if you'll notice, there were the 7 Congress people, all with security clearances, who wrote the editorial in the Washington Post saying that they weren't for impeachment, but they are now for security reasons and patriotic reasons and what have you. So that set it up. That teed it up for what has followed, and that was a couple of days ago. So now, now they have a plan. They build a crescendo, a movement. As I said earlier in this show, now in the last 24 hours or so, there have been 60-some Democrats who have changed their minds and said they're now for impeachment.
The other thing, too, is that Donald Trump made 2 very critical mistakes in the memo that was released today. And those 2 mistakes are Rudy Giuliani and William Barr, because Rudy Giuliani is a private citizen. There is no reason for him to be out there representing the United States in any foreign diplomacy at all. He even went on Fox News to say that he was called by the State Department, and he said that as if that would vindicate him. Right. But it actually is even worse if proven true. And William Barr, who was supposed to be the Attorney General of the United States, now again
he is the Attorney General of the United States. Yeah.
Right, and now he is once again proving himself to be Trump's lawyer, because Trump is even saying in this investigation the point people will be Rudy Giuliani and William Barr. And those 2 things are just completely out of bounds.
And the Democrats are calling for him, Barr, to recuse himself.
We've been down this road before.
Right, exactly. Right.
All right. So, by the way, so what I missed this thing. What did Giuliani say? He got called by the State Department?
Yeah, he did.
What does that mean?
The State Department sent him over there.
I see. So why that's his excuse?
Yeah,
because he's an official agent of
because he's a civilian. It begs the obvious question: why are you even out there at all? Because you don't work for the White House. And his answer was, "Oh, it's simple. I got called by the State Department. They're the ones that called me to ask me to go over there."
And so, how is that bad for Trump?
He's still a civilian. If you feel like that there should be an investigation into Joe Biden or his son for whatever happened in Ukraine or did not happen, then there are avenues that you can take to follow that investigation appropriately.
Not your personal attorney.
Right. We have things, we have an apparatus called, I don't know, the FBI.
Yeah.
that he could have engaged. He could have done it again, and something that had the appearance of propriety. But instead, he decided to put the new Michael Cohen, because that's what Rudy Giuliani is, the new Michael Cohen, his new fixer, on the job. Yeah. And that is a big problem, because, again, this isn't a domestic issue. Stormy Daniels, okay, that's a domestic issue happening here. You can kind of have your personal attorney handle that. Obviously, not so much, because Michael Cohen's in jail.
Yes. Wow. But think about that for a moment.
Right.
I always like to think about that.
But to have your personal attorney out there representing the United States talking to Ukraine, it's beyond the pale. And
and also Donald Trump, in the transcript, I keep calling it a transcript, in the memo, it's very blatant. He goes, "I'll hook you up with Attorney General Barr."
Right. Except the Republicans, the Republican defenders are saying, "Well, this is nothing here. He doesn't. He's not asking for anything, because he didn't do it."
Explicitly.
What did he not do explicitly?
Well, no.
I mean, what?
I'm with you, Ben.
No, he did not say, "I'll give you the $400,000."
He said, "There's things we can do
if you do this."
Yeah, right.
He literally said, well, by the way, this is, again, one more time, not a transcript, but this is a summary of what he said. And it sure sounds like Donald Trump. There are things we can do for you. The day after.
You see, you are a thinking man.
So, all right. So let's deal with the Republican response.
Sure.
And big difference between this and what went down when Monroe and I were young men with Watergate is that there were members of the Republican Party who were like good government Republicans
who put country over party.
Yeah, and they had they were following values and ethics. I'm thinking of Lowell Weicker. They're good government Republicans. It is a species that is pretty much just extinct now. We do not have anything resembling that, and there are no Republicans that I know of, and correct me if I'm wrong, Atiba and Monroe, there are no Republicans that I know of that are out front saying that this warrants an investigation. Already you're telling me...
Mitt Romney is clearing his throat.
Okay.
He hasn't said it yet, but
So...
That's correct.
Yeah, so the Republican counterpoint, what will the Republican counterattack be to defend Donald Trump on this?
That's the thing, Ben. I don't know, because I don't reasonably know what it could be. The only thing that they can continue to do is kind of parrot some of the things that maybe William Barr says, and that, you know, if he did it, he's the president, and that makes it legal. He can kind of make that. I guess they can try and make that argument, the same Article 2 argument that Donald Trump makes. But again, you can't defend the main thing, which is Rudy Giuliani and his admission of his involvement. You can't defend it. It's indefensible. And I think when you asked earlier, what's different? That's one of the things that's completely different, is that this is so much easier to prove. So I don't know how they reasonably defend it. I really don't.
well, right now what they're doing is they're talking about Biden.
All right.
And it's a bogus charge. Yeah. But now, I mean, they're insisting, as they have done with the Mueller report. They want to investigate the investigators. On the Mueller report with Biden, they're saying, why are you talking about this stuff that the president did when you're not talking about what Biden did? He tried to he got $1 billion or something, and it's all a lie. I mean, it's been debunked.
Well, here's why
they pushed the lie.
Yeah, here's why it isn't comparable. Because whatever Joe Biden did, he was doing on the behalf of the United States,
right?
Not on the behalf of Joe Biden,
right? So
that's where the comparison loses its hold. Because again, yeah, he had a quid pro quo, but it was to say he was speaking on behalf of President Obama and the Obama administration. He wasn't speaking on behalf of Joe Biden for personal gain.
Right.
Donald Trump, clearly, again, that's what makes this so great, because again, he was only doing this not for any benefit of the United States,
right,
strictly for his own upcoming election. And it's irrefutable.
Well,
except the Republicans use false equivalencies day in and day out. And so that's what they're doing. They're saying, well, what about Biden?
And that you just answered my question. That's what we're going to hear a lot of coming down the stretch. We're going to hear a lot of what about Biden. Right. And so my guess is that the Republican, there will be not one Republican of consequence in this country who will say, what about the President of the United States?
Right.
Every Republican in this country will be saying, what about Biden? Biden.
I think they're welcome to say it, Ben, but I just don't see it. I see it losing fizzle really quick, because as you say that, I'm thinking about Hillary Clinton and her servers. And yeah, she shouldn't have had the servers. Like, speaking as a Democrat, there was some there. Was it as big a deal as Republicans made it sound? Of course not. But you could argue that the reason she had the servers was because she felt like she was above it, that she didn't have to play by the rules. So there was some there. There is, as Monroe stated, there is no there when it comes to Joe Biden and his son. Because you can't, it's like, again, I hate to keep referencing TV, but it's like trying to prove a murder. You have to have motive and opportunity and means. And there is no motive for Joe Biden to have tried to extort anything out of Ukraine, because what he was trying to do was get rid of a prosecutor that wasn't doing his job. And if he got in a more stringent prosecutor, if anything, that could have made things worse for his son, not better. So again, if you can't tie together that motive,
predated his son. His son wasn't even in office when it happened.
Right.
But what's really interesting about this, and it's not discussed enough as far as I'm concerned, is they're accusing Hunter Biden of and his father having this business deal in a foreign country. In the meantime, the Trump boys are all over the world cutting deals to enrich themselves.
And don't forget the Trump girl, because she's leading the pack.
And the girl, that's true. The Trump children. I'm sorry,
Yes.
I didn't mean to be misogynistic on that. Yeah, the Trump children are out there running amok, making all kind of money and cutting all kind of deals. And there's this one instance with Biden. So it's definitely, again, a false equivalent.
All right, now, you mentioned Biden. Let's get into Joe Biden for a moment. TV, before you came on the show, I was going on one of my favorite riffs about the peculiarity of Joe Biden in this current primary. And I know my show trends left, but most of my guests that come on the show don't have much nice to say about Joe Biden. Monroe was as close as I come to someone who said something nice about Joe Biden, and he's even been backing off of that lately. So
I said I like Joe, but I think Elizabeth is better. That's basically my position.
Okay, I'm the only one who says anything nice about Joe Biden, by and large. And yet Donald Trump is utterly obsessed with Joe Biden. It's pretty clear by now. So what would your recommendation to be to the Joe Biden campaign? His name is if anything, it's an advantage. I mean, they're just saying the name Biden, Biden, Biden. On one hand, you could see it.
Yeah, I got some advice. I got some advice for him. Here, you need to watch out for Elizabeth Warren. You can't get ahead of yourself. That's the advice.
Right.
Because in every poll, Elizabeth, in places that he was leading, she's either leading, or in places that he had a big lead, now he has a substantially smaller lead, and I think she's ahead in Iowa. So, again, with those primaries coming up, he needs to be more worried about, again, getting out of the primary before he gets, he can't put the cart before the horse.
And the latest poll has her edging him out in New Hampshire.
Sure. Yep.
Oh, I always thought that Joe Biden.
She's surging.
Yeah. I always thought that Joe Biden was essentially waiting for the South. Mm-hmm. He's waiting for the black vote to save him.
Right.
That's his only hope.
Right.
And just my sense
South
of it.
Carolina.
Right.
Yeah. Well, black vote in general. The older black vote.
Well, I think South Carolina is one of the earlier primaries.
Yeah, one of the earlier primaries. Right, exactly.
But the problem he has is that Warren has been methodically building. I mean, she has been so professional and so good about this. It's a marathon, and she's been running it as such.
And she has way fewer gaffes. Like like we're not hearing every other week about something crazy she said or messed up or misspoke. She's running a very clean campaign, and she's outraising everybody.
Well, what I meant was in terms of Biden, this would apply to Elizabeth Warren or whoever the Democratic nominee is. How do you deal with the issue of Biden and his son? Do you give it credence? Do you try to go down why these absurd allegations? Do you do you handle it the way Trump would do it? Go into counterattack? Do you mock the media for raising the subject? How, in your opinion, do you deal with
I think he'd have a much bigger problem if Republicans were in charge of the House and then they were able to open up bogus investigations. But that isn't the case. There's a difference between, again, the Senate Intel Committee or some other committee trying to open an investigation into him and Donald Trump tweeting about it. Those are two different things. The people that are appreciating Donald Trump's tweets are going to appreciate him anyway because they're his followers. He is not going to win over independents and good-thinking people with just his tweets because there's no there there. So I don't think he has a whole hell of a lot to worry about. I'm sorry if I can't say that.
You get a lot of this. It's a podcast.
Right,
okay.
Right. And Elizabeth Warren is so smart.
Right.
That she's not saying anything about it. She's trying to stay about Biden. She's trying to stay as far away from that as she possibly can.
Yeah. Well, she's focusing. No, she came out very strong on in terms of the need to impeach Trump.
Right. Yeah,
she's
right.
Been
Now
very clear about that.
I'm talking about with Biden.
Yeah.
I mean, she's not. If had that been Trump, this is difficult, but let's say instead of it being Elizabeth Warren, it being a Trump-like character in second place, they would be attacking Biden.
By the way, you guys Yeah, you keep saying Elizabeth Warren. Isn't Bernie right up there too, as well as Elizabeth
He's
Warren?
fading.
He's fading. He's leading in some states and in some areas,
He's
but
like
nationally, he's fading.
Yeah, he's like the witch of the West,
Yeah,
where he got a bucket full of water.
I don't say that lightly because I'm a Bernie bro.
Yeah.
But nationally,
Yeah.
he's fading. He's losing ground to Buttigieg.
No way.
Yes.
He is.
Oh my God.
Yeah, right.
He is.
About to end the show right now.
Exactly.
No
He's
way,
not-
Bernie's
he's not
not
even-
And
Nobody's voting for Buttigieg.
and Yang is on the ascendancy too.
No way.
He's not even losing to Harris. He's losing to Buttigieg. That's what I'm telling you.
I do not believe that. I got to see that one.
And a lot of Bernie voters are again probably beginning to side with Elizabeth Warren because
maybe. I don't
you can believe that whatever he was for, she was for, and she's a safe bet for them.
Okay, I'll just say this. We're in a tangent here, but I'm always going to have some love for Bernie. He took the hard stand
All right,
long before it was fashionable.
I love Bernie too, but just not a Bernie bro.
That's for sure.
I love the fact that he was there in
He was
2016,
there.
and he kept Hillary from drifting to the center. He kept her to the left.
Well, it took a long struggle to get her to do that.
Oh yeah, I know exactly.
Remember
and,
John Lewis saying, we don't need a free education for people. That's a promise we shouldn't make. So.
Right, exactly. No, so he introduced all this stuff, but again, to me, he comes off as a grouchy old man yelling, "Get off my lawn!"
All right. Enough on Bernie. Stop picking on Bernie. All right, Atiba here. Monroe is so hard on Bernie, isn't he? All right.
Bye, Bernie, says Monroe.
Yeah. So Atiba, here's the deal now. Democrats, I started off the show by making fun of Democrats. I love making fun of Democrats. They're so cautious. They're so bizarre the way they play the political game. They're ferocious when they're fighting each other. Like here in the city of Chicago, they go after each other. You know,
when they're getting rid of Al Franken. But go ahead.
Yeah. Well, okay, they are. That's a whole different thing, Al Franken. But although I was leading the charge on that one, but let's just put Al Franken to the side for the moment. I was never a big Al Franken fan, but when it comes to dealing with Republicans on a national level, they're very cautious, very chicken. They pretend as though there's a bipartisanship that not only doesn't exist, has not existed since
2008. Oh, go ahead.
No, 1980. Okay, when the Democrats and Republicans cut a deal on "quote unquote" a tax break for the rich, when Dan Rostenkowski and Ronald Reagan cut that deal. So that's the last significant bipartisanship I can think of. Maybe some of our listeners will come in with something that happened. The crime bill during the Clinton era, which nobody in the Democratic Party wants anything to do with. So there really hasn't been any bipartisanship in the 21st century. All right, so they cling to this notion that it's bipartisanship. They're so afraid of going after the Republicans. They're so cowardly in the face of Corey Lewandowski giving them the middle finger. They back off, they retreat. They're so worried about swing voters in Wisconsin and Michigan. They won't aggressively get their base to come to vote. They're so collectively so bad at the game of politics. Has something significant changed at this moment in terms of how the Democrats are going to react?
We have to look at a couple things. One, there's a lot of fresh blood in the House. So you have all these freshman senators, and they don't care.
Congressmen, you mean?
I'm sorry. Thank you. Congressmen and women. Mm-hmm. And they don't care. AOC and the squad, and you could name a couple dozen more on top of that. But there's fresh blood in the Congress.
Even Underwood.
That is pushing and making this a priority. So that's one of the main differences is, and that, again, is that we're not dealing with people that have been in the House for 20 years and 30 years. We have so many new senators that represent such wide swath of the American experience between Muslim women. We don't have a transsexual yet, or transgender yet, but it's coming. But when you have all that type of diversity pushing forward, and it's youth and it's young. These are young people. That is one of the biggest differences because they are just they won't settle for anything less.
But the main difference is Ukraine. This whistleblower situation has united the Democrats.
Yep.
A week ago, they were at each other's throats. If you remember, trying to figure out, well, should we impeach him? Should we do this? We're going to be called socialists if we say this or that. Now they're all focused on one thing, and that's the whistleblower, Ukraine, and impeaching Trump.
Well, I'll tell you what, we will be following this every step of the way. Monroe, Atiba has been calling for this moment from the moment I got in front of a microphone, from that first show back in March of 2017. So here we are in, September of 2019, and the Democrats have finally united around an impeachment inquiry. If Monroe is correct, the actual impeachment vote will come down, when do you think, before the end of this calendar year?
I think by Halloween. I like holidays. So.
And that means that there will be a parade of witnesses coming before the Senate in a trial. And presumably there will be a prosecutor who knows what he or she is doing, as opposed to these congressmen who do stupid things like asking Corey Lewandowski to read a transcript, which he's not going to read. Remember that one, right. Atiba, where he goes, you read it yourself, you know, just openly giving him the middle finger. And so, having said all that, not one Republican, not one, including your friend Mitt Romney, will vote for. They could have Donald Trump saying on that transcript, I will give you personally your own condominium at Trump Tower in exchange for dirt on Joe Biden, and not one Republican.
This is my theory. I've had it for some time, and I'm sticking with it, is that when the hearings are televised and all these criminal activities of Trump are exposed, his ratings are going to fall, and as his ratings fall, all those Republicans in the Senate who are up for election are going to have a change of heart about him, and they will go, "Oh my God!"
Atiba, come on now. Do you believe that?
No. And I don't believe that we're going to be having a vote this year, because
a Senate vote,
right.
or a Demo, or you mean
even in the House?
Okay.
I don't because right now with Nancy Pelosi making that announcement, what that means is there are now 6 different committees within the House that now have to prove each of their own case for impeachment, and it's going to take some time for them to gather that. We're talking about Thanksgiving, we're talking about Christmas. I just don't see it happening. I see it happening sometime next year. And I don't think that the Democrats honestly want it to happen too soon. I think the closer they could play this out till March, April, May, June of next year, just a couple of months before the election, is to their benefit.
All right, very good.
And before we go to break here, Monroe, people are weighing in here. Atiba, they're weighing in. Figured I'd weigh in with the live stream comments here before we move on. Let's see here. We got a guy named Dog Doggerson. He weighed in. He says, Monroe's got it. Let's see here.
They all love Monroe.
Dog Doggerson. I love the name Dog Doggerson. He says, Bernie's still doing great. And then he says, yeah, also Warren/Sanders is also a false equivalency. But Stephen weighed in, and that's something I've been wondering myself here. Stephen asks here, where did Monroe get that epic shirt that he's wearing?
Oh, man, that shirt. Where'd you
get
that shirt?
Where'd you get it, Monroe?
It's a
FUBU. For us, by us?
Yeah.
Is that hand-painted silk?
I don't know.
I think so.
I don't know. But it's 20 years old.
I think Monroe got that in another lifetime.
Right, exactly. And I bought it new. It's not a one of those...
Goodwill numbers?
That's got like a 70s vibe to it.
Stephen then
very
says,
70s.
Stephen then says, geez, what a glorious garment that is. So a lot of people liking the shirt. Oh, and I have a personal request here. I just love it every time you do it when you come on our show. Can you just say Putin?
You want to ask me a question, or just can I say Putin?
There we go. That's all I needed. That's awesome.
All right, Monroe Anderson. A big day for Monroe. The Democrats have finally launched that impeachment inquiry, and Monroe celebrated by wearing that glorious shirt.
Yes.
And Atiba celebrated. The Hallelujah chorus breaks out. Atiba Buchanan celebrated by wearing a wonderful tie and some cufflinks, and I celebrated by wearing my best Bulls hat.
There you go.
Atiba, Monroe, thank you very much. You'll be coming back regularly as this saga unfolds. Every Wednesday with Monroe Anderson, we've got Kelly Kean, University of Chicago Medical Center nurse, Man, come on, University of Chicago. Do the right thing by your nurses. Nurses and teachers, firefighters and cops, got to treat them right. They do good things for us. We'll bring her on to talk about what's going down at the University of Chicago right after this.
Monroe, put the beer away. Partying too hard. Read the Chicago Reader to get up to speed on what's what in Chicago. Culture, food, arts and entertainment, weekly concert listings, weekly event listings, the environment, travel. I can continue, but you get the point. And for all of you Chicago political junkies, raw weekly columns on real city politics from Maya Dukmasova and our very own Ben Joravsky. The Chicago Reader, free to the public in newsstands throughout the city and online at chicagoreader.com. Read it now and be a more informed Chicagoan.
Did you know that 40% of the people in Illinois opt to be cremated? Well, it's true. And Chicagoland Cremation Options honors their wishes by providing cremation services directly to the general public. Chicagoland Cremation Options provides an affordable, ethical, and easy cremation arrangement, whether in person or online. Save thousands and streamline the process by going directly to Chicagoland Cremation Options. It's a family-owned business operated by my good friend, Douglas Klein. Here's how you reach them. ChicagolandCremationOptions.com. One more time, ChicagolandCremationOptions.com.
After years of neglect, Illinois is finally getting its mojo back.
Attention Chicago innovators and creators, 2019 Chicago Ideas Week is coming soon. October 12th through the 17th, this annual Ideas Festival is back, and it's the largest, most affordable Ideas Festival of its kind. They bring in hundreds of thought leaders from around the globe and some local to share ideas and spark action all across Chicago. To get a better idea of what to expect, here's a bit of audio from last year's Chicago Ideas Week with special guest and Chicago comedian Hannibal Buress.
The real reason I came home is just because I was traveling a lot anyway. I wasn't in New York that much, and I don't have a full-time job in New York. I work a lot, but I'm not in New York, so it was just like I don't need to be here anymore. And also I just wanted to work on different stuff here in Chicago. So I have this center that I'm working on the west side, Melvina Masterminds. It's going to be arts and then a tech program and after school programming for kids in the North Austin area. So just wanted to be back. There we go.
October 12th through the 17th, it's 2019 Chicago Ideas Week. Tickets go on sale to members on August 22nd and to general public September 10th. Once again, if you're an innovator or creator in the city of Chicago or even outside the city, you must join us for Chicago Ideas Week, October 12th through the 17th. For tickets and event information, head to chicagoideas.com. That's chicagoideas.com, and we hope to see you October 12th through the 17th. Commercial break over. Welcome back to the Ben Joravsky Show, live from the Chicago Sun-Times.
This weekend, I saw a picture in the paper that really, just really got to me. It was University of Chicago had employed these big burly guards to keep nurses from coming back to work at the hospital down there in Hyde Park. I'm like, come on, University of Chicago. You're supposed to be so enlightened. You're supposed to be like the leader of intellectual thought in the Midwest. Why you got these big burly guards like Pinkerton strikebreakers back in the day? And then you just so very vicious of you, University of Chicago, to treat your nurses that way. That's just my opinion. I'm allowed to opine because it is my podcast. So I just immediately said, I got to get some nurses on to talk about what's going down at the University of Chicago. It's been happening for a while. First it was a strike, then it was a lockout, and then we'll get the latest from Kelly Kean, who is a nurse at the University of Chicago. But before we bring Kelly on, D, you got an update for me?
Ben, please opine more.
Okay, I'm opining like crazy. That University of Chicago, and by the way, Chicago teachers Teachers Union. Yay, Bernie. Yay, John Cusack. Want me to find some more? How about Bob Ryder going crazy at that Chicago Teachers Union rally with Bernie and dropping the F-bomb? Yay, Ryder.
Oh, my goodness. And how about Bruce Rauner, huh?
Yay for our teachers. Yay for our teachers.
Oh, what a governor.
All right, before we get into our interview here, I just want to remind everybody, big day on the Ben Joravsky Show tomorrow because Ben is going to be talking one-on-one. He's going to be in studio with Dan Savage.
Savage Love, Chicago Reader.
Savage Love, Chicago Reader. You know what I mean? It's going to be at 3:30, and what we're going to do is it's going to be a Benny J bonus interview, but we're going to keep the live stream going, all right? So be sure to tune in live on Facebook Live or the YouTube page as well. Dan Savage coming in, and boy, I got to clean this place up a little bit. My goodness, it's a mess in here. So I'll be cleaning up, and Dan Savage will come in.
Wait, somebody, you didn't clean up for Kelly?
I know. I'm sorry. I was really
She's
busy.
a nurse, okay?
I know. I'm so sorry. We had stuff on the floor. I'll clean it up. Dan Savage tomorrow, 3:30 live. Tune in, or you can download it this weekend as a Benny J bonus interview. Ben, we got what questions you got in mind?
No, we're going to be talking politics. Dan Savage is a student of politics, national level and state level, and I know he's going to have a lot of good insights. It's going to be a lot of fun conversation about Trump, the strategy to beat Trump, how the Democrats should proceed. I'll be asking. We'll play some of the Rahm stuff. We'll get into whether the Democrats should follow the Rahm strategy or the Dennis strategy, as we call it. The Dennis. I just gave you credit for it.
All right.
Which means get the base fired up. That strategy.
Yeah.
And just a lot of great political talk with a really
no pressure. Trent Carson says can't wait. He can't wait.
I can't wait either.
Well, I'm not trying to put the pressure on you here, and it's can't wait to listen. That's what Dar said.
I'm with both of them. I can't wait. Yeah, it will be good. I can tell you that right. Dan Savage is funny and smart, and it's going to be a good time.
That's correct.
All right, very good. Appreciate that. By the way, if people were wondering, this is Harold Washington.
Yeah. Show
donated,
everybody that.
This.
Put it right in the camera there.
What? Oh, yeah.
Ben, he's ahead of the world here.
I
That's a
don't know
3D print from
what that is?
Yeah, from our good friend Hector. Hector, thank you so much for sending us that Harold Washington 3D print job there.
Harold Washington, of course, is the greatest mayor the city of Chicago has ever had. He was the mayor of the city of Chicago from 1983 to 1987. And he wouldn't tolerate the University of Chicago locking out its nurses. Anyway, let's move on to Kelly Kean. Thank you for coming in, Kelly. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so before we get into the issues and stuff, talk a little bit about yourself. What kind of nurse are you?
Yeah, sure. So currently I work in the surgical trauma ICU, but I've worked all over in the university. I worked in the ped side, I worked in the NICU, the PICU, in supplemental. So I've kind of done a lot.
Help me out a little bit when you use those abbreviations. What were those acronyms?
NICU is the neonatal ICU, and then the PICU is the pediatric ICU, and surgical ICU, SICU.
So your job in the surgical ICU, what does that entail? What do you do every day?
So surgical trauma, we can have patients from trauma, gunshot victims, motorcycle accidents, motor vehicle accidents, all the way to transplants. We get post liver transplants, post pancreas transplants, post kidney transplants, to anything in between, any kind of surgical. Any patient who had a surgery who needs an intensive care unit, they majority of the time come to us in the surgical ICU.
All right, so Kelly, excuse my utter ignorance. I apologize up front for not knowing the answers to these questions I'm about to ask. So are you the nurse that, like, when somebody comes in and the amber and they put them on the stretcher and, like, on the TV show, clear away, boom, boom, hitting the, they hit the...
Remember that excuses ignorance part there.
They hit how they hit the chest, and then like the TV camera will be coming up and it'll be all blurry because that's the vision. That's the viewpoint of the patient. Where am I? And you are that nurse? That's you?
It's a little different in the actual real world, but yeah, that's kind of us.
So it's life and death decisions. You have to be able to react like that instantly.
Absolutely. We have very sick patients at the university in all of our units. Our acuity is high. We take patients from all over, from all the way down to Springfield in Indiana, all the way over to Rockford. Patients come to us from all over when they can't get the type of care that they need at their community hospitals. They're too sick for those hospitals. And so they come to us because we can get them the care that they need. And so our patients are very sick. at the university, and we're the top nurses who can, take care of those patients. But, kind of going into why we went on strike in the first place, our staffing is not what it needs to be in order to take care of those patients. They opened the trauma center a year and a half ago, and they didn't give us the resources to take care of those patients. I don't know if the hospital didn't know how many patients would come in for that treatment, but that patient population increased exponentially, and all the rest of the patients, before trauma happened, the surgical ICU was taking care of different patients, and all of those patients, where did they go? A lot of them went to the floor, and so patients that would have been an ICU patient last year now are on the regular general floor with nurses who are taking care of 4 other patients who are just as sick as that person.
I remember when they opened the trauma unit, there was a lot of patting on the back and congratulations, and aren't we great? That was actually the result of years of protest by activists on the south side of Chicago saying there's no trauma unit. The other hospital, I can't remember which one, closed its trauma unit, so the south side was without a trauma unit. So the University of Chicago finally opened it. They had I remember the groundbreaking, Mayor Rahm, et cetera, et cetera. So you're telling me they opened the unit, but they didn't hire enough nurses to adequately staff the unit.
Correct.
So they're asking relatively the same number of nurses to do more work.
Correct.
And so what's the implication on the daily activity of a nurse? Like, how long a day do you work? How has it changed a nurse's life?
Well, so, we work 12-hour shifts. The majority of us, some work different hours in procedural areas, but the majority of us work 12 hours, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. or 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. There is no stopping of care at the hospital. It happens 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And we're there taking care of this.
So
patient.
you work a 12-hour shift, 7 to 7, and every day of the week, or how many days a week?
So we work 3 days a week, the majority of the time. But, I can tell you over the summer, it's a big trauma season, and I get a text almost every day off, asking, hey, can you come in? We need more nurses. Can you come in? And, to ask the same nurses every day, can you come in for another 12-hour shift? I know it's your day off, but we really need you. And you sit there struggling at home like, oh, I really need the day off. Like, I need to get stuff done. I need to just relax. But then at the same time, you feel bad for your workers that, they're struggling at work to get everything done. It doesn't matter if they don't have the staff. If they have the bed, they will take that patient, And so as staff, we just kind of figure it out. It's like, we'll take, assignments that we really shouldn't be taking. We pair patients that shouldn't be paired, because somebody needs to take care of them. We as nurses don't have the option to say, no, I can't take care of that patient. No, I can't take that assignment. And the only option we have is to fill out a form that we call an ADO, that is basically a form saying, I took this assignment, but I don't agree with this assignment. It's not safe for the patient for me to take this assignment. And over the past 2 years, we've had 1,700 of those ADO forms filled out saying, this wasn't an appropriate assignment for us to take. And that's not even the number of times that they should have been, filled out. There have been plenty of times where I should have filled out an ADO form that I didn't, because I was like, well, nothing bad happened. I got through the shift. But, you don't want to just get through the shift. You want to get through the shift knowing that you gave the best care that you could give, and not that you, that you missed something. If you're stretched thin, there's certain things that have to give. You can't give the patients everything that you need. As nurses, we do everything. We do the assessments. We're the eyes and ears of the doctors. The doctors come in, 5 minutes in the morning, maybe again in the afternoon. But the nurses are the ones who are at the bedside. They're looking for those signs. Is this patient getting better? Is this patient getting worse? What do we need to do? Calling those doctors and saying, something's not right with this patient. You need to come and take a look at them. And then we're also doing those other things of comforting and cleaning them up and, getting them up to the chair, getting them to the bathroom, talking to family, explaining things to family. I had a patient where the mom had me come in and explain a procedure to each and every family member as they came in so that everyone understood. And I was happy to do that, but that's something that, takes me away from other things that I need to do. And so, what do the nurses give up then? They give up their lunch breaks. They give up their bathroom breaks. These are things that we give up so that we can do those other things, because we feel that as nurses, those other things are more important. But you can only do that for so long. You can only give up your lunch break and stay overtime and, give up your days off so much before you're like, you know what, I can't do this anymore.
So how many, if you could, even if it's just raw numbers, how many nurses are there currently employed at the university, and how many nurses do you think they need to hire to fill in these shortages of employees?
That's a good question. There's currently 2,200 nurses at the university. I don't know how many should be hired, but I can tell you that, in the contract negotiation, the hospital offered us 30 positions as they're part of the bargaining table to say, this is our proposal. We'll give you 30 more nurses to fix your staffing. And it's not even, a drop in the bucket. I'll give you an example. The ER won an arbitration that they were getting refused their breaks. And just for the ER alone to get their breaks, they gave them 20 FTEs. And so for them to say 30 FTEs is going to solve the staffing problem for the entire hospital, that's like telling a drowning victim, here, I'll throw you a pair of goggles. Like, that's not going to stop them from drowning.
Wait, help me out of the ER won its arbitration. ER, emergency room. Mm-hmm. Emergency room nurses, they had an arbitration hearing?
They had an arbitration.
On what issue?
And that they weren't getting their breaks. They weren't getting their required breaks.
In other words, there was a shortage of nurses.
Correct.
And the way the hospital dealt with the shortage, oh my God, the way they did, I go, here's what we're going to do, guys. You're not going to have a break. You're not going to have lunch. You're just going to keep working. And that's how we're going to, so we can have this hungry, tired nurse dealing with people who are facing a life and death situation. That was their solution to their nursing crisis. And so the ERs then filed a grievance.
Correct.
Through, and the arbitrator ruled on their behalf. And what was the result of that ruling?
So the result was that they would open up 20 full-time employee positions for just the ER to allow those nurses to get their breaks. And the rest of the hospital is saying, we're not getting breaks either. We're taking care of,
right.
5, 6, really sick patients, 2 patients in the ICU who really potentially should have been one-to-ones, and we're pairing them because we don't have enough nurses to take care of those patients.
Did they hire the 20 more nurses in ER? Do you know?
I don't know.
Do you know how much a nurse would cost? Let me just figure this out. I'm going to do this mathematic. I'm going to help you out, University of Chicago. I'm going to do the hard math. So how much what does a nurse generally make, roughly? Do you know? Just like a beginning nurse, do you know?
Probably $30 an hour.
30. Oh God, my math is terrible. How much is that? D, do the math. How much is that? I'm not trying to help the University of Chicago out.
Well, let me get my
$30 an hour.
Let me get my Dan Biss app out.
Okay,
Hold
times 37. That's what they generally make. All right. So 30 times 37 is how much?
1,110.
Multiply that times 52.
This is great podcasting.
Go ahead.
57,720.
All right, let's just say $60,000 times 20, please. Twice 22
times 20
or 20. Yeah, 22. They hired 22.
22. Okay.
Yeah, 60,000 equals
1,269,840.
All right, so there you go. It cost the University of Chicago $1.2 million. Let's say 1.27. I'm going to round it up for you, University of Chicago. Let's make it 1.3 to make it nice, because you're going to give them a Christmas bonus because you're so $1.3 million. All right. kicking and dragging and screaming and fighting an arbitration decision. That's how much they're going to pay. How much do you know did it cost the University of Chicago to bring in those security guards and the nurses when you guys went on strike?
Well, I can tell you they spent, it was about $5,000 per nurse just for their salary, or and then they also paid for room and board and food and everything. And I don't know how much they
had to feed those nurses. They eat a lot of money, a lot of food. Oh my goodness! So $5,000 for a nurse? Did you say? And how many? Do you know how many they brought in?
They brought in several hundred, to fill the space. But we were offering to come back on Saturday. We only wanted to be off on Friday to strike and let them know. And we offered to come back on Saturday, and they just wouldn't let us, come in. They said, nope, we got the nurses we need. Although, they said they had enough nurses, but they still closed. We were still closed to bypass. We were still on bypass to transport, to trauma, to ACLS, to strokes, to burns. All of those people were bypassed to other hospitals where, they could have come back starting on Saturday.
In other words, I see what you're saying. So if a person with a stroke was, instead of going to the University of Chicago, they bypassed and they sent that person, the stroke person, to another hospital.
Correct.
So you brought in a replacement nurse, even though they were sending the patients that nurse would have to treat to a different facility.
Well, so they were still allowing walk-ins to come in, so people were still able to go to the hospital. But they transferred almost all of the pediatric patients out to other hospitals prior to Friday. They transferred some, on a case-by-case basis from the adult side to other hospitals as well. But as far as, ambulances, they weren't coming to the university. They had to go to another hospital.
Now, I'm going to say something, and you don't have to agree with me if you disagree with it, but I'm going to say something. It seems like the University of Chicago is willing to spend a lot of money just to really stick it to their nursing unit, as opposed to hiring a nurse. You get what I'm saying? That's why I did the back of the envelope math to figure how much would it cost to hire nurses to fill the shortage. But they don't want to spend that money, but they'll spend money hiring nurses to really stick it to you guys. Am I being unfair to the University of Chicago when I say that?
No comment.
No comment. All right. It's easy for me to say that. I don't have to go back to the University of Chicago. That's just my sit here and do that back of the envelope math. So essentially, how long have you been negotiating? How long has the union been negotiating?
So we've been without a contract since April. And so they started negotiations in March. And they were supposed to go back to the bargaining table today, but the hospital canceled those today and tomorrow's bargaining sessions, saying that, they needed time to get all the nurses back into the hospital and get everything up and running again.
And so it seems like the main issue here is this issue of jobs. Are there salary matters, disputes also on the table?
The main issue, really, we're just asking to keep what we already have. The main issues are, the staffing, the security, forced overtime. There are areas in the hospital, especially like the procedural units, who, they don't get to leave if the procedure's not done. If they get to the end of their shift and whatever procedure is going on, they have to stay until the end of that procedure. And then whenever that happens, they don't get to come in later the next day. They have to come in same time the next day, whether